Good morning, students. Today we'll start the next topic of Chapter 2, Biological Classification. And the topic which we'll be covering today is Kingdom Protista. As we all know that the Protista are all the single-celled eukaryotes. So they are the cells or the organisms which have specific membrane-bound cell organelles and they have a distinct nucleus. So in this Kingdom Protista, the most organisms will be unicellular, that means which are made up of only one cell, but some may be more than one cell. So they mostly comprises of the unicellular organisms. And these are mostly autotrophic in nature, while very few of them are heterotrophic. So we all know that autotrophs are the organisms which make their own food, and the heterotrophs are the organisms which depend on the other organisms for their food. So we shall write some points. Okay, so in the Kingdom Protista, the organisms are all the eukaryotes. That means the organisms which comprises in this Kingdom Monera are eukaryotes. Okay, which means that they are the as we know that the prokaryotes are the primitive cells which do not have a membrane bound nucleus or cell organelles. It does not have any distinct nucleus, so that's how they are the primitive organisms, Kingdom Monera. But here in the Protista, they are eukaryotes, which means that they have a specific membrane bound cell organelles and they have a distinct cell wall, not cell wall, a distinct nucleus. Okay, so most of them are unicellular. So most of them are unicellular. Mostly they are unicellular. That means they are made up of only one cell. Then they are autotrophic in nature, so most of them are autotrophic, while other are heterotrophic. So now, where do they live? They are found in the moist and aquatic habitat. That means these Kingdom Protista, widely maximum they are aquatic. So they prefer moist and aquatic habitats. Now, how do they reproduce? So reproduction is generally asexual and sometimes sexual also. Asexually and sexually they reproduce. Okay, so this is the overview of Kingdom Protista. Now in this we will be learning about different organisms which are grouped under this Kingdom Protista. Okay, so now this Protista or protist, they are linked with the other kingdom as well. So how do they link with the other kingdom? That means that the organisms which falls under this Protista are very different, very unique. That means they sometimes resemble with plants, sometimes they resemble with animals, and sometimes they do not fall under any category, neither of plants nor of animals. So this is a link. This kingdom Protista is a link for the higher kingdoms like kingdom Plantae, kingdom Animalia. So those organisms which not truly are animals and neither they are plants, and some of them also resemble like algae. So all the resemblance of kingdom Plantae, kingdom Animalia and algae, those organisms falls in this kingdom Protista. So some of them are like plants like protist. Okay, so these protest, they have some link with the other kingdoms. So that's why these protesta are because they fall with the other link. So I will write here. So link with other kingdom. Okay, so there are some plant like protest. So these plant like protest are like, they will look like plants, but not all the algae. There are some groups which are called as algae, which we all know that. So not all the algae fall under this plant kingdom. So some of the algae falls under protist. Example, red algae. Okay, so some of the protist are called as animal like protist, so which resemble animals, like they will be having a holozoic mode of nutrition and they will also move from one place to the other, so they will resemble like animals. So animal like protist, example, protozoa. So protozoa is not an animal, neither a plant, but it falls under the kingdom Protista. Now next is fungus like Protista. So there are some fungus which resemble, so they are fungus like protist. So they could be slime molds and water molds. So molds are just, we say this word very commonly, bread molds. So when we see any fruit which is rotten, like you keep any fruit these days, if you keep your fruits in open, if you don't refrigerate your fruits, simple, so you will see some white color powdery substance forms over the fruits like oranges and all, you would have seen. So that is called as mold. So some of them are called as slime molds and some are water molds. So these are fungus, they appear like a fungus, but they are not fungus actually, so they are protists. Okay, so these are the categories of protista, because some photosynthetic protozoa could be called as plants, and some protozoa which resembles animals could be termed as animals, but they are under this kingdom Protista. Okay, so we have many groups which falls under this Protista. So the groups which we will be studying, which are given in the NCERT book, groups under Protista are, we have total 5 groups in our book, so we will be doing that, which are number 1 is chrysophytes. Okay, then dinoflagellates, then euglenoids, slime molds or molds, and then protozoans. Okay, so these are also mentioned in the NCERT book. Okay, so chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans. Okay, so we will be studying these one by one. So first we'll start with the chrysophytes. Okay, so okay, so these chrysophytes are made up of this is a Greek word actually. So in the Greek language, this chryso means gold. Okay, so chryso means gold, and phytes means plants. So that means golden plants. So this word comprises of two words, which means as chrysophyte means golden plants. Okay, so what comes under these category of chrysophytes? So this group includes the diatoms and the golden algae, which is also called as desmids. Okay, which is also in your book. So the organisms which falls under this kingdom Protista and in the group of chrysophytes are diatoms. Diatoms are like algae. So diatoms are the small algae, and golden algae. Okay, golden algae. So these falls under the plant like protist category. So because they are like algae, so they falls under the plant like protist. So they don't look like animals, but they are plants like protist. Okay, the first group is called as chrysophytes. Now they in their structure they contain chlorophyll and they contain a pigment because they have color. So the color is imparted because of the pigments. So we know that okay, so I'll write here structure. How are they made? What is the structure of those plants? Not plants, but protozoa, chrysophytes. So structure, they contain pigments of chlorophyll. So chlorophyll will give them green color. Chlorophyll, carotene, which gives them red color because carotene imparts the red color, and xanthophylls. Xanthophylls gives them a yellow pigment or a yellow color. Xanthophylls, okay, yellow color. So because of these pigments, and chlorophyll we all know green color, because of these pigments present in them, they are colorful. That means they are often they are of red color, no, not red or golden color, because of the xanthophylls and keratins. Okay, carotenoids and xanthophylls. Now they have a special feature, which is that they have a very rigid cell wall. Okay, so these chrysophytes have a very rigid cell wall. This thing you have to remember. Because of this, their cell wall is made up of silica. Okay, so their cell wall is made up of pectin, cellulose, and silica. Cell wall made up of pectin, cellulose, and silica. Okay, so because they have a very unique feature, like they have a rigid cell wall, and the cell wall which, so from which it is made up of silica. So because of that, when these diatoms die, after that also their cell wall remains in the sea or in the oceans, because these are the marine organisms. They are found in the oceans and in the sea. So when they die, when these atoms or chrysophytes die, their cell wall does not decompose because it is made up of silica, and their cell wall is not very thin. Actually it's very thin, but it's not a single layer. So it is fitted into like it has two layers of cell wall. Like if you have a soap box, imagine it's a soap box and it has a lid over it. So this lid fits into this soap box, okay, or a tiffin box. So the sheets of these and the cell wall of these diatoms are very thin and they fit into one another, and because of these two thin layers they fit into one another, so it is quite hard, and because it is made up of silica, so it is indestructible. So because it is not destroyed, so because in the sea the most of the marine, if you say that the marine organisms, most of them are made up of these diatoms, so they are very huge in number. So even when they die, this silica does not go anywhere, and it deposits in the sea, and it forms layers of sea. And because of this accumulation of these diatoms, because they do not decompose, because they are made of silica, so over the period of time, over the period of billions of years, they have they have made a layer on the sea. So this is called as diatomaceous earth. So this term is quite important, which could be asked that what do you mean by diatomaceous earth. So diatomaceous earth is diatomaceous earth. Okay, so diatomaceous earth is just an accumulation of cell wall. I'll write here accumulation of cell wall, cell walls of diatoms over several years forms diatomaceous earth. Okay, so as we know that the cell wall is made up of a silica, and even when the diatoms die, the cell wall remains, and the large amount of silica causes the diatomaceous earth. And why does not decomposes? Because cell wall of diatoms are very thin, and they are into two layers of thin layers which fits into each other, and it is because of made of silica, so it's indestructible. So this causes the diatomaceous earth. So as we were reading about the structure, so we said that they contain chlorophyll, cateins, and xanthophylls, and they have a rigid cell wall which causes the because it is made up of a cellulose, silica, so it also causes the diatomaceous earth. Now the other are that they exist in the filaments or colonies. So their structure will be filamentous, or they will be formed in a cluster. So they can exist as filamentous or colonies. Okay, so now after this we'll come to the habitat where these are found. So these are found in the aquatic habitat. So they are found in aquatic habitat, most of them as marine, and it could be freshwater or even marine in the seawater also. So they are maximum found in the oceans, and they even comprises the maximum 40% of the ocean. So they are in huge number. So they are everywhere. So because they are found in a large number in the ocean, that's why they are food of the many organisms of the sea. So and then they float in water. Sometimes they will passively float in the water, so they will be very light, so they will be seen on the upper surface of the water, passively on water. Okay, so this is the habitat. So nutrition. Okay, so how do they take their food and all? Nutrition. Okay, so mostly they are photosynthetic because they have pigments, so they will make their own food, mostly photosynthetic. Okay, so we are studying about kingdom of Protista, and into this we are studying about the first group called as chrysophytes. Okay, so chrysophytes are mainly the photosynthetic in nature, which are diatoms and golden algae. Okay, and these diatoms, so diatoms are, next point, are the main producers of food in the oceans, because they comprises of the large number of the their number is very in a very large number in the ocean, so they are food for many organisms which are found in the oceans. So like few of them are heterotrophic in nature, they will eat small bacteria, and most of them will be photosynthetic in nature. Now we have many uses of them also, because these diatoms, maximum plants stores starch. Their food is stored in the form of starch, but they store their food in the form of oil. Okay, so last, the uses of these diatom. How are they useful to us? Uses, so they are used in polishing, they are used in filtration of oils and syrup. So number one is they are used in filtration of, as actually these diatoms, when they are collected, they can be collected in the form of a clay or in the form of a soil, because it is made up of silica. Okay, so they are porous in nature, so that's why they are used in the filtration of oils and syrups. Then they are also used in the polishing, as it's little abrasive in nature, so it is used in polishing. Also in facial scrubs, they are used in toothpaste. They are also used in the pest controls, pest control. So how do they help in pest control? Because they will absorb all the oils and lipids from the pest's body, and then the pest will the moisture will be taken out, and then they will be dehydrated and the pest will die. So that's why they are used in the in storing the food grains also. So there are many uses of these diatoms. Okay, and they are the chief producers in the oceans. So we are done with the chrysophytes. Okay, so next we coming to the dinoflagellates. Second is dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates. So these organisms are also mostly marine, and they are also photosynthetic in nature. Okay, so dino also comprises of a combination of two words, which is di means two, and that means they have two flagellas, and they have a whirling flagella. Whirling means it keeps on moving. So they are the protist with flagella. They are the protist with two flagella actually, which is protist with two flagella, because di means two. So two flagella, which is a whirling, that means it has two flagella. One is the transverse, and one is longitudinal. Okay, so this means that one is like this and one will be like this. Longitudinal means in the lengthwise, and transverse will be this way. So it will be having two flagellas which will be in the opposite direction, and which will be whirling, and which will be helping this dinoflagellates to move. Okay, so they are nor plants nor animals. So these are neither plants nor animals. Okay, so we have studied about plants like protist, then animals like protist. So these are neither plants nor animals like protist. Okay, so moving to the structure of these dinoflagellates. So these are also marine, and these are also photosynthetic. So that means they contain chlorophyll. They contain chlorophyll, and then they contain carotene, and also they contain xanthophylls. So xanthophylls will impart them yellow color, carotene will impart them red color, and chlorophyll will be giving them green color. Okay, so they also have a complex cell covering. Their cell cover is called complex, and they have some light sensitive organelles. That means they have some organelles which can sense the light. As they have carotene, xanthophylls, so they can be in yellow color, in green color, in blue color, depending upon the main pigments which is present in their cells. So they can be of any color. So they appear in different color. And they also have a sensitive organelle which sense the eye, which is also called as the eye spot. Okay, so erythrospedium is also that part of that organelle which is able to sense the color, which is also called as the smallest eye. Okay, so complex cell covering. Okay, so their cell wall is stiff with a complex cell covering, and which is made up of cellulose. Okay, so the outer surface is very complex. Now after this we move to this flagella, because it has two flagella. One is longitudinal, one is transverse. So it has a furrow in between the wall plates. Okay, so these flagella helps them to move. Now where they are found, so the habitat, they are mainly aquatic, so they can be found in marine and in freshwater. Aquatic, that means marine and freshwater both. Okay, so nutrition. So most of them are photosynthetic in nature. And some of them could be heterotrophic in nature. That means they will eat their food, they will ingest their food. Some of them are heterotrophic. Also they will be holozoic. Okay, so then reproduction, how do they reproduce? So reproduction is mainly asexual. Mostly asexual. So asexually they will reproduce by the fission. Most asexual by fission. Okay, and sexual reproduction is seen in very few of them. In very like sexual reproduction is very rare, but it's there. Is seen only in some of them. Okay, so after this, a very important point is about the pigmented organism, pigmented dinoflagellates. As we know that they are in different colors, but the red color, it gives a red tide. We have seen very often that red dinoflagellates undergo a very rapid multiplication, and they make the sea appear to be a red color. And when the tides comes in the sea, so those tides are observed as a red in color. So these red tides are toxins. They also release toxins because they are in a large number, and the toxin produced by these are very dangerous. It will kill other animals also, marine animals also. So the reason of this red tide is the rapid algal blooms. Okay, so the word is Goniolax. Okay, so this Goniolax is the red tide. Okay, so this is the red dinoflagellates causing the red tide. So red dinoflagellates. Okay, so if you get a word Goniolax, what is Goniolax? So you have to remember that it's the red dinoflagellates which is responsible for the red tide. Okay, so I will explain this. Like red tide caused by the increased number of these algal blooms. So the algal blooms, sometimes some things increases in a very very large number, we call it a bloom. So when the algae blooms very quickly, so caused by the coloration of the sea into red color due to the rapid multiplication of red dinoflagellates. Okay, so this is termed as red tide. Red tide is caused by the coloration of the sea into red color due to the rapid multiplication of the red dinoflagellates. Now, these red dinoflagellates or Goniolax also releases some chemicals. Okay, so the chemicals released during the process of formation of this dinoflagellates or Goniolax is extremely harmful, because this causes very toxic gases. So this is harmful for the marine life, harmful for the survival of other aquatic life, as well as fishes. Fishes even die because of the toxins released by these dinoflagellates or Goniolax. So these red color dinoflagellates are called as Goniolax. Not all the dinoflagellates are called Goniolax. Okay, so you have to remember these. And then the three other groups of protozoa, which is euglenoids, slime molds and protozoans, will be covering in our next lecture video. Okay, so till then, read all these, read through your books and clear your doubts. Thank you.